Hello and welcome to Asia News Today. Taiwanese military reservists on high alert as the president urges unity. Power outages are becoming both common and critical in Myanmar, affecting both industry and residents. And an FBI agent has shown how up to 14 people raided hundreds of millions meant for the Malaysian 1MD Wealth Fund. A lot coming up in today's Asia News Today. Hundreds of Taiwanese army reservists have carried out training exercises after a call from the Taiwanese president calling for unity as the island keeps an eye on China's reaction to the invasion of Ukraine. Taiwan has kept its military reservists on high alert over the past year. About 400 personnel took place in target training and combat simulations yesterday in efforts to keep the island's defences in readiness for any aggression from China. President Tsai Ing-wen addressed the reservists over the weekend, stressing the need for unity if the call comes to defend the island. She said, "The recent situation in Ukraine once again proves that the protection of the country, in addition to international solidarity and assistance, depends on the unity of the people." The sabre rattling from China has escalated since Ms. Tsai took office back in 2016 and the growing rhetoric between the US and China since the same time. Chinese warplanes have been breaching Taiwan's air defence zone with greater frequency, and Moscow has declared its cards, siding with Beijing, saying that Taiwan is an inalienable part of China. Yesterday, Taiwan's Ministry of National Defence reported that 13 Chinese warplanes, including 12 fighter jets, entered Taiwan's declared airspace. Fugitive businessman Joe Low, the alleged mastermind of the 1MDB scandal, is said to have stolen the equivalent of US $1.42 billion during bond transactions that the Goldman Sachs Group arranged for the Malaysian National Wealth Fund. An FBI agent, Eric Van Dorn, claimed the amount under oath as a witness in the bribery trial of ex-Goldman Sachs banker Roger Ng yesterday. He also testified against former Malaysian PM Najib Razak, telling the jury that he earned $756 million from the $6.5 billion raised in the 1MDB bond offerings. He also threw the former PM's stepson, Riza Aziz, under the bus, testifying that he pocketed $238 million in the deal. Among others involved in the huge international scandal, Van Dorn named Kadem Al-Kubaisi, a former MD of Abu Dhabi's state-owned International Petroleum Investment, a guarantor of the 1MDB transactions, claiming that he received the equivalent of US $473 million. Van Dorn explained in detail how he tracked the money and that payments were made to at least 16 recipients, and explained that Roger Ng was paid $35 million, while former Goldman Sachs banker Tim Leissner, who's already pleaded guilty to the fraud, was paid $73.4 million. Former Malaysian PM Najib was convicted in Malaysia and sentenced to 12 years in prison, but is currently free during an appeal over the conviction. Japan's defence ministry reported yesterday that 6 Russian naval vessels passed through a passage of water between the country's northernmost prefecture of Hokkaido and Russia's Sakhalin Island. The incident was reported by Japanese Maritime Self-Defence Force vessels on Sunday night. They reported that the 6 vessels included a destroyer, a submarine and a missile tracking ship, all heading towards the Sea of Japan. Russia's Navy has stepped up maritime drills involving more than 20 warships in waters between Russia and Japan since February. And last Thursday and Friday, a total of 10 Russian naval ships passed through the Sagura Strait between Hokkaido and Japan's largest island of Honshu. Russia has confirmed the military exercises, saying they were taking place around a chain of islands controlled by Russia, but the disputed islands are also claimed by Japan. Japanese Defence Ministry officials yesterday claimed that the ramping up of Russian military activity appears to be in parallel with its invasion of Ukraine.
Join the conversation and have your voice heard. Discuss the issues, share information, and get information. Thaiger Talk is where you keep in touch with everything Thailand. go to thetiger.com/talk.
And in another regional naval incursion, the Philippines Department of Foreign Affairs has called China's ambassador to Manila to protest the Chinese Navy's incursion in the Sulu Sea for 3 days from January the 29th this year. The official protest claims the passage of a Chinese electronic reconnaissance ship in Philippines waters was illegal and violated the country's sovereign rights. At the time, a Philippine Navy vessel challenged the Chinese reconnaissance ship, which said it was exercising innocent passage at the time, the equivalent of just passing through. Filipino defence officials say the Chinese vessel's movements didn't follow a track that can be considered as continuous and expeditious, claiming they lingered in the Sulu Sea for 3 days. The Filipinos told the Chinese ambassador that Chinese vessels must desist from entering Philippine waters uninvited and without permission. Myanmar is suffering a series of frequent power outages following the military coup 13 months ago. Oil and energy price hikes are also adding to the woes of the Burmese. But the military junta responded by claiming that transmission equipment at hydroelectric plants has been destroyed by militant forces. The Energy Ministry also announced yesterday that some natural gas-fueled power plants in Myanmar have suspended operation because of the surging fuel costs. In Yangon, traffic lights remain switched off and businesses are resorting to power generators to stay open. Larger factories are also complaining about outages lasting up to 10 hours at a time. Residents are also sharing on social media that power cuts can last all night, making it too hot to sleep without fans. And a routing of China's stock market yesterday cost some of the country's richest tycoons more than an equivalent of US $52 billion. Zhong Shanshan, China's so-called king of bottled water, lost more than $5 billion. Stock in his Nongfu Spring Company tumbled 10% in Hong Kong trading. In another case, Tencent's Pony Ma dropped the equivalent of $3.3 billion. Tencent shares crashed after news emerged that the company is facing a record fine for violating anti-money laundering rules. The plunge in Chinese stocks accelerated after a report suggesting Russia has approached Beijing for support with the war in Ukraine. The report has raised concerns over a potential backlash against Chinese companies. Bloomberg reports that the Hang Seng China Enterprise Index sank the most yesterday since November 2008, while the Hang Seng Tech Index tumbled 11%. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal has reported that the People's Bank of China discovered that its online WeChat Pay service has allowed the transfer of funds for illicit purposes. They report that there's a raft of other alleged illegal transfers. And last Friday, DD Global shares slumped a record 44%, another ride-hailing app suspending their preparations for a Hong Kong public listing. So there you go, that's our quick whip around of the main stories from the Asian region over the past 24 hours. A lot happening and a lot of sabre rattling, it seems, as well. Plenty to report, and we'll do our best to keep you informed with all the major stories. We've also got our Thaiger merchandise. Back to the basics. So if you would like a nice mug on your desk, a painting, or perhaps some of our t-shirts and stuff, then please go to thetiger.com/shop. But from all of us here at Asia News Today, thanks for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow.